some interesting things about Rolex you should know. Rolex is unarguably the most powerful and most influential luxury watch brand of this era. All Rolex watches are handmade. Even in the industrial era we live in, where machines that can do most tasks, Rolex watches are still handmade. Essentially everything for the Rolex watches is made in the house. The most complicated and lengthy process is for a watchmaker to assemble the advanced movements that are fitted inside of the watch. To make sure they meet the high demands, they are lastly independently tested. The skilled watchmakers of Rolex assemble each of their movements by hand. Back in the days, Rolex bought movements externally for some of its models, but today they are all made in the house, which means that all movements used in Rolex modern watches are made by Rolex themselves. Considering the high volume of watches that Rolex produces, it's hard to believe that each of the movements is assembled by hand, but it is certainly a proof of the immense quality and attention to detail that goes into making these watches. Rolex makes about 800,000 to 1 million watches a year. It is estimated that Rolex makes about 2,000 watches a day, but Rolex doesn't release information about how many watches produced yearly, and this is why the numbers are estimates. Rolex was founded in London, England in 1905 by Alfred Davis and Hans Wilsdorf. In 1908, the trademark Rolex was registered. Rolex is a charity. In 1944, Hans Wilsdorf founded the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation after the death of his wife. The ownership of Rolex is now the subject to the foundation, and clear guidelines for how the finances should be handled are set up. Since Swiss law says that private charities don't need to disclose about their respective charities, the donations of the Rolex Foundation are kept a secret. In 2017, the most expensive Rolex watch sold for $5,060,427. The watch was specially made in 1954 and was commissioned by the last emperor of Vietnam, Bao Dai. That record was broken, however, in 2017 when a Rolex Daytona sold for $17,752,500. Rolex has been to the deepest point in the ocean. If you thought going to 10,916 during the Bathy's Cap mission was a lot, you'll be surprised to hear that a Rolex watch has gone even deeper than that. In 2012, James Cameron descended into the Mariana Trench on his Deep Sea Challenge mission. As he did so, he wore a Rolex Deep Sea Challenge, a timepiece which was guaranteed waterproof to a depth of 12,000 meters. Rolex retails in over 100 countries. This is a clear evidence and a true sign of world domination. Rolex released the first watch able to automatically change both day and date on the dial.